Thank you, Lasantha. Your Excellency and our distinguished guest, Mr. Kamalesh Sharma, the Secretary General of the Commonwealth Secretariat. Your Excellency, Professor Umar Dambata, the Chairman of the CTO and the Chief Executive of the Nigerian Communications Commission. Your Excellency and my good friend, Mr. Malcolm Johnson, the Deputy Secretary General of the ITU. Your Excellency, Honorable Alpha Kanu, the Minister of Communications from Sierra Leone. Your Excellencies, High Commissioners, distinguished guests. It is indeed a great honor and pleasure for me, on behalf of the Council, the Secretariat, and staff members, to extend a warm welcome at this event, at this unique occasion, to launch the 115th anniversary of the CTO. Now, before I leave, just last week, we were very privileged to have a message from the Queen, Her Majesty the Queen, on the occasion of our 115th celebration. So I will call one of our staff, Emma Kinnick, to come and read the message from Her Royal Majesty the Queen. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's my great pleasure to deliver the congratulatory message sent on behalf of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. The Queen was pleased to receive the kind message sent on behalf of the Commonwealth Telecommunications Organisation on the occasion of your 115th anniversary launch event, which is being held today at the Royal Institution of Great Britain. Her Majesty was interested to learn that the event will look to a future of new technologies, as well as reflect on the role of telecommunications over the last century. As head of the Commonwealth, the Queen appreciated your thoughtful message, and in return sends her best wishes and congratulations to all concerned for a most memorable and enjoyable occasion.
It's my pleasure to call on His Excellency Mr. Kamalesh Sharma, who is the outgoing Secretary General of the Commonwealth Secretariat. He's going back to India at the end of March, and he's told me he's going to relax. But we might need your political support, so at some time later. Mr. Sharma, you are pleased.
Thank you very much for your invitation. I walked up from my place of work in Pall Mall, and I was just reflecting on what a historic street this is, and all the buildings on the way. Let me start with a trivia question, which I hope the Londoners here would find of interest. Which is the first one-way street in London? First one-way street in London. Albemarle Street. And why? Because of this horseshoe lecture hall. The presentations and lectures by Michael Faraday and Humphrey Davy were so popular, there was a traffic jam of coaches outside in Albemarle Street. And they had to make it into a one-way street. Then I recall walking up and I passed the Brown Hotel. I recall reading, and it's interesting for ITU, that the first, I think, radio transmission of admittedly a very short distance, the very first radio transmission took place from the Brown Hotel.
Now it's a pleasure to invite my good friend Malcolm Johnson, Deputy Secretary General of the ITU, to speak on the stakes at play in the global digital economy. Malcolm, yeah.
Thank you very much, Shola, Secretary General of CTO. Secretary General Sharma, Honourable Minister and Professor, Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues and friends, it's a great pleasure for me to be here to celebrate this 115th anniversary of the Commonwealth Telecommunications Organisation in this historic room, in this historic building, and in fact in this historic street, as we've learned. And I bring with you congratulations from Secretary General Zhao. As you mentioned, he's at the World Economic Forum this week, and also bring greetings from my fellow elected officials, and in fact all the staff of the ITU. Congratulations on this really tremendous and historic anniversary, 115 years. As you mentioned, ITU last year celebrated its 150th anniversary. And I know some of you here were with us for that celebration. We really think it's important that we do celebrate these anniversaries of these venerable organizations, not only to reflect on the achievements that they've made over their long history, but also to review where we're going, lay down new objectives, and to evolve with the sector that we're serving. And I'm very pleased and congratulations on these new initiatives that you're taking. Congratulations also on this very attractive new logo. And we in ITU have had an excellent and very long relationship with the CTO, going back many years, of course. But in particular, the CTO plays a very important role in the ITU insofar as it helps to generate the consensus that we strive to reach in ITU. We have 193 member states in the ITU, which are divided into 6 different regions. And the Commonwealth has key players in 4 of these 6 regions. So by coordinating Commonwealth positions in the very diverse membership that the Commonwealth has, it really contributes very much to the success we have in ITU in maintaining the tradition that we have of reaching decisions by consensus. So I'd like to thank the CTO very much for playing that role. So, as you'll see in the program, I was asked to speak today on the title of the stakes at play in the global digital economy. This is a very topical issue at the moment. As we know, we're at a crossroads in the global economy and some concern over the outlook ahead. The US equity market was flatlined over 2015. The Chinese market took a steep fall. And here in the UK, the Economist pointed out just last week that the UK stock market is some way below not only the level it was last year, but at the beginning of this millennium. Yesterday, the IMF cut its growth forecast for the next 2 years, warning that the recovery of the financial crisis could be derailed altogether if key challenges were not addressed. Earlier this week, my colleague in Geneva, Guy Ryder, the Director General of the International Labour Organization, highlighted the fact that the world economy is too weak to close the significant gap that is there currently in employment and social situations in many countries. Last week, the World Bank estimated that the digital economy now accounts for 4 to 5% of the global economy, of GDP, and 1 to 2% of jobs. This doesn't sound very significant, but it's important to recognize the importance of the digital economy for a number of reasons. Firstly, we've seen that the digital economy can buck the trend. And during last year, the increased stock market valuations and growth of the so-called FANGs, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, actually increased incredibly. Stocks in Amazon and Netflix more than doubled. And Alphabet, the Google holding company, and Facebook also enjoyed an incredibly successful year. And the digital sector offers tremendous potential for other sectors strategically, because it can provide many cost-saving and cost-effective efficiencies for other industry sectors. Also in healthcare and education, and in particular in other ways of doing business, such as outsourcing, crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, and other mainstream methods of making the working methods more flexible. The digital economy is one of the key focuses of the World Economic Forum taking place this week in Davos, where the leaders are considering the theme, the fourth industrial revolution, or the machine age. And tomorrow in Davos, ITU will be convening a special meeting of the UN Broadband Commission for Sustainable Development to hear directly from leaders of industry how they're coping with this current economic environment. One of the things at stake may be the very nature of the telecommunications company. In the digital economy, telecommunications companies face massive technological upheaval and at the same time face emerging and new agile competitors, which are subject to completely different regulatory and tax regimes. Telecom companies are having to reform themselves from the traditional nuts and bolts network engineering companies to service providers and even software developers, building virtual as well as real networks and developing new customer relationships. At the same time, the fixed line providers are having to invest in commercial relationships with giant multinationals, companies that might be built around a search algorithm or a new innovative piece of software, and whose revenues may derive from advertising, which may not even apply the government licensing requirements to operate in a particular jurisdiction. 5 years ago, we had a lot of discussion about the telcos needing to cooperate or compete with the over-the-top players, the OTTs. But now it's becoming increasingly recognized that partnership is the way forward. And another big question at issue is at stake in the global digital economy is how it will result in the job market, what effect it will have on the job market. Will it result in net gains or net losses? And this month we had a report from the World Bank on the World Development Report, and also we had the 25th edition of the UNDP Human Development Report. And to paraphrase these reports, what basically they were saying was that this is probably the worst time to be a manual worker and probably the best time to be a knowledge worker. Yesterday, the WEF predicted that as many as 7.5 million jobs will be lost to robots in the near future, with office and administrative jobs facing the largest decline, estimated to be 5% by 2020. Perhaps it's too early to estimate whether there will be an increase or decrease in jobs due to the digital economy. But one thing that is clear, that globalization and the digital revolution will lead to a redistribution of jobs globally, and that the economic influence is shifting eastwards. One of the insights in the World Bank report was that the introduction of digital technologies is amplifying trends. This means that where there are good institutions and good ICT skills, then these are enabled through the improvement of the economies. And whether, on the other hand, where there is a lack of good ICT skills and where there is a poor regulatory environment, then it will have the reverse effect. It will amplify the downside. So it's clear that we need to refocus our efforts on capacity building to increase the ICT skills in countries, and especially in developing countries, and to increase the possibility of in providing more flexible working practices. And this is one of the reasons that ITU holds its annual global symposium for regulators, and also a number of capacity building events that we hold around the world. Some of these, I'm pleased to say, jointly with the CTO, to enable a cross-fertilization of good practices and encourage the building of an enabling environment to make the most of the digital economy. And ITU is continually advocating the tremendous benefits to be had from communication technologies, ICTs. We did this most recently at the COP21 Climate Change Conference in Paris, where we emphasized the significant roles that ICTs can play in reducing total greenhouse gas emissions, especially use of smart technologies in cities. And again, at the UN General Assembly, which was reviewing the outcome of the World Summit on Information Society, the WSIS, where we emphasized the importance of ICTs in implementing the Sustainable Development Goals. We believe that this will be necessary for each of the 17 SDGs. And in partnership with the Global E-Sustainability Initiative, GESI, we'll be launching a report at the next WSIS forum, which ITU hosts in Geneva in May, on how ICTs can help implement each of these 17 SDGs. This will clearly be a major aspect of ITU's work over the next 15 years. And the CTO has common objectives and largely a common membership with the ITU. So let me conclude by once again saying how much we look forward to working with the CTO to help achieve these SDGs and to bring the benefits of the information society to all the world's citizens. So congratulations once again to CTO. I wish Secretary General, the members of the CTO staff a very happy and a very successful 115th anniversary. Thank you very much.
I will also call on a former chairman of the council, Ambassador De Bono, for coming here all the way from Malta.